Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to Dr. Sarah and my fellow friends. My name is Nur Hikmah and my group consists of Farah Nabiha, Nur Afika, Nur Amira Shafika, Nurul Husna Nabila and Wan Hadi Imran. Today, my group will talk and present regarding about the contamination in Islamic perspective. As been shown in the slide, a contamination is a biological, chemical, physical, or radioactive contaminant that become dangerous to people or living creatures when it is unintentionally or intentionally introduced into air, water, soil, or food. Okay, in this assignment, all of us reach an agreement to make our topic to become more specific on something because the topic is too general and we choose food contamination where this presentation will put forth regarding about the food contamination according to Islamic perspective. As been mentioned earlier about the meaning of the contamination, meanwhile, for food contamination, it means that it refers to spoiled or contaminated food that are unsuitable for eating due to the presence of microorganisms such as bacteria or parasite or harmful compounds. The dangers associated with contaminated food are significant but difficult to measure. Diarrheal illnesses such as foodborne and waterborne illnesses kill an estimated 2 million lives each year, and many of them are from children in underdeveloped nations. Before going into the details about the technicalities, it is crucial to note that purity, cleanliness, and hygiene are emphasized in Islam, as shown in a lot of hadiths and by the fact that Muslim consumers adhere to this standard. That is why safer and clean food save life because a person's health is at risk with every bite they take because of the possibility of disease through microbiological, chemical, or physical or allergenic contamination. So today we will discuss and present regarding about the sources of food contamination involved in the processing of food.
Yes, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wan Hadi Imran bin Wan Muhammad. I am from Group IC 2203P. So today I will be explaining and discussing a little bit about the concept of contamination through Islamic perspectives. First of all, let's start with the definition of contamination. Okay, what is contamination? Contamination is the presence of a constituent, impurity, or some other undesirable element that spoils, corrupts, infects, makes unfit, or makes inferior material, physical body, natural environment, and workplace, and many more. Contamination can have serious consequences for both consumers and food businesses alike. It can cause harm to consumer health and safety and can drastically affect a business's reputation if somebody is harmed. Okay, food contamination is so dangerous. The consequences of eating contaminated food range from sickness all the way up to death. It is because of this, it is critical that we understand what 4 types of contamination are and how we can prevent them from affecting the safety of our food. Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala said in the Quran in Surah Al-A'raf verse 157, which translated to, and who bids them what is fair and forbids what is unfair, and makes lawful for them good things and makes unlawful for them impure things, and relieves them of their burden and of the shackles that were upon them. So those who believe in him and support him and help him and follow the light sent down with him, those are the ones who are successful. Okay, from this verse, this clearly shows that Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala has forbid all Muslims from consuming filth, which can be bad for our life, and their life will be surely blessed by Allah Himself. But for the people who consume or do anything related to contamination, the goods with filth will be surely be punished by Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Next, what is contaminants? Okay, a contaminant is a biological, chemical, physical, or radiological substance that, when accidentally or deliberately introduced to air, water, soil or food becomes harmful to humans or living organisms. When it comes to pollution on large scale in relation to humans or living organisms like us, contaminants are also known as pollution in environmental science. There are numerous contaminants and contamination sources. Various contaminants can contaminate breathing air, drinking water, farming soil, and essential foods that we eat every day, either accidentally or deliberately. Many contaminants can be found in the natural environment, and they are mixed at a rate that allows human and living organisms to process them without harming our health. Okay, contaminants become harmful to our health, human health, and quality of life once they exceed acceptable exposure limits. Okay, let's move on to the types of contaminations that I will explain it briefly because the other presenters will elaborate more on it. Okay, basically there are 4 types of contaminations that we must know so that we can avoid from getting our foods contaminated with it. Okay, there are 4. First, physical. Second, microbial. Third, chemical. And allergenic contamination. Okay, that's it from me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum. I'm Amira Shafika binti Zulkifli. So, I will continue present my subtopic, which is chemical contamination of food. What is the chemical contamination? Chemical contaminants are the substances which are neither present naturally in the usual raw material used for food production nor are added during the regular production process, such as food additives. It is the most difficult type of contamination to control, and it could potentially result in acute poisoning and a long-term disease. Based on Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 195, the meaning is, and spend in the way of Allah, and do not cast yourself into destruction with your own hand. Do good, for Allah loves those who do good. This verse stating that the people should keep away from every kind of destruction, including harm from food. In the food sector, it can be translated as to prevention from and avoiding the hazard, which is defined as an agent that is reasonably likely to cause illness or injury in the absence of its control. It is categorized as biological, chemical, and physical hazard. There are several sources of a chemical contamination in food. Firstly is transportation. Food can be contaminated during transportation caused by diesel and gasoline from vehicle engine that emit excess carbon monoxide. Next, cleaning agent. Cleaning agents in the food industry play an important role in food safety. However, they are easily contaminated with food when there is negligence in handling food that can lead to toxin poisoning. Besides, food additive is one of the innovations introduced in the food industry for reduce waste and extend the shelf life of food, but it can affect our health, such as headache, vomiting, and skin rashes. Moreover, food packaging are not inert and can contaminate with the food when a chemical are released into the food from food contact material. Next, heavy metal. Heavy metal are a chemical element of metal that may be toxic and poisonous when not treated. Lastly, industrial chemicals. Usually, water, salt, and direct pollution due to anthropogenic activities is a medium that is often contaminated by chemicals that affect the food industry. There are some of the best ways to prevent chemical contamination from occurring. Firstly, we must always store the chemical separately from food, including cleaning product. This is because when we store the cleaning product and the food at the same place, the contamination will be occur either directly or indirectly. Next, we have always keep food covered whenever possible. Based on hadith, Abu Humaid Sa'idi reported, I came to Rasulullah with a cup of milk from napkin which had no cover over it. Whereupon, he said, "Why did you not cover it, even if you had covered it only with a stick?" Abu Humaid said that he had been ordered that water skin be tied during the night and the doors be closed during the night. Riwayat Muslim. In the hadith, it clearly indicates the need to cover the food and drink so that the food not to be exposed. Besides, we have to make sure that chemicals are properly labeled. It is to avoid confusion, such as the bottle of a vinegar and the cleaning agent like Clorox that have a similar label and color that can cause a confusion to us. Lastly, safe food packaging is one of the features in food hygiene and safety. The use of unsafe food packaging can harmful to our health. I think that's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Farah Nabiha binti Muhammad Nasir. I will present to you about microbial contamination. As a Muslim, we know that Islam emphasizes the importance of the permissibility of the sources of food that are eaten in accordance with Islamic law. Based on Surah Taha verse 81, we must eat a clean and pure food. This is because to the fact that increasing one's food intake will promote the growth of one's health and behavior. When a food is contaminated with microorganisms such as bacteria, viruses, mold, fungus, and toxins, it is referred to as microbial contamination. Microorganisms can also be considered as useful for fermentation. For instance, in terms of flavor, appearance, and the texture. However, their growth also capable to causes foodborne illness and food spoilage. The development and the growth of bacteria, yeast, and molds in food is influenced by both the intrinsic and the external conditions of the food. Therefore, in order to prevent from the microbial contamination in food, we must know where microbes come from, how to prevent them from contaminated into food, and plan a strategy to destroy them. So here are some of the most frequent types of microorganisms that may enter food from each of these sources based on Osho. The first one is soil and water. Among the bacteria often found in these environments are Bacillus, Citrobacter, and many more. Molds also found in soil include Aspergillus and others. The second sources is plants and plant products. Flavobacterium and Lactobacillus and more are common plant-associated bacteria. Molds that cause vegetable and fruit deterioration include Fusarium, Aspergillus, and others. The most prevalent yeast species found in plants are Saccharomyces. Next, food utensils. The kinds of bacteria discovered in kitchen utensils varies based on the food handled, the utensils maintenance, and the storage. Airborne germs, yeast, and molds may be found on accessible utensils that collect dust. Then, intestinal tract of man and animals. Bacteroids, Lactobacillus, Salmonella, and others are also common in the human intestine. These microbes enter the soil and the water through feces. The most common yeast found here is Candida. The fifth sources is food handlers. The organisms present on food handlers' hands and outer clothes are a result of their surroundings and behaviors. Aside from this, several bacteria are related with hands, noses, and mouths, which is Micrococcus and Staphylococcus. Then, animal feeds. The organisms present in animal feed depends on the food source itself. Salmonella is one of the most common bacteria, yeast, and mold species discovered in animal feeds. Besides animal hides, an animal's hide is typically contaminated with microbes from soil, water, and animal food and feces. Animal skins may contain microbes that may contaminate with air, hands, and food of workers. The last one is air and dust. Most of the microbial species listed above may be found in dust and the air, apart from the diseases. There are also several ways to prevent microbial contamination. The first one is plant design. It is including the floor design, the materials utilized in construction, and the amount of light in the room. The second one is quality of water, ice, and curing solution. The microbiological quality of this water, particularly if the products are prepared to eaten, should be low in spoiling microorganisms such as Pseudomonas. The third one is quality of air. Installation of air inlets helps to provide dry and dust-free air. The fourth one is equipment. Food processing equipment must prevent food against microbial infection, which is the most significant microbiological factor to address. Next, training of personnel also helps to maintain product safety and stability. A processing facility should have an active program to educate plant employees on the need of cleanliness and hygiene practices. Besides, cleaning of processing facilities. Cleaning removes visible and unseen filth from food production equipment and surroundings. After cleaning, all food contact surfaces are addressed to a sanitation procedure. For the cleanliness of food processing equipment, a variety of physical and chemical sanitizers are used. They should be able to effectively eliminate dangerous microorganisms while also reducing the overall microbial strain on the environment. Last but not least, microbiological standards, specifications, and guidelines also helps to keep food microbial populations under control. I think that's all for my part. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Afika binti Muhammad Suhaimi, and now I'm going to brief my part, that is physical contamination of food. Okay, physical contamination of food when the food has been contaminated with a foreign object. It also has been contaminated such as while handling and also while preparing the food. The cause and the impact of the contamination of food will give a big impact for the consumer, such as fractured teeth, choking, and also stomachache. Now, I'm going to explain 4 types of physical contamination of food. The first one is hair, number 2 is jewelry, number 3 is bandage, and number 4 is broken glass. Okay, about the hair, number 1, whenever you want to handle the food, you should wear a hair net. Number 2, jewelry. You have to keep a minimum jewelry while you handling the food so that the jewelry never drop off into the food. Number 3 is bandage. If necessary, you have to wear a bright color bandage so that we can see the bandage why it fall off. Number 4 is broken glass. This is a dangerous one because it can give a big impact for the consumer if there is a broken glass into the food. Okay, whenever you see a broken glass, make sure to throw it out and replace it with a good new or a good one. Okay, the next one is I'm going to explain about how to prevent physical contamination to food. Okay, the first one is about replacing any damaged equipment immediately. Okay, this is the first and this is the important one because if you forgot or you do it later, it will give a big impact for the consumer while they eat our food. Okay, and also the second one is having a full pest control system in place. Okay, having a pest control is important to make sure that there is no cockroach, no rodent, and also any animal that will give a problem to your premise. And the third one is reporting any fault with equipment and premise without delay. Okay, this is about when you have a problem regarding about your premise, you have to make sure to report the problem to the organization or to your manager. so that they can cover or they can make sure there is no problem will happen to the food while we handling or prepare the food. Okay, the fourth one is following dress code principles such as remove a jewelry when handling food and wear a hairnet. Okay, this is as I mentioned before because this is one of the important thing that we have to avoid. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Hi, I am Husna Nabila, and now I will explain the last point of our presentation, which is allergenic contaminations of food in Islamic perspective. Basically, allergenic contaminations include in types of food contaminations. This situation happens when the food that causes allergy comes cross contact with the other foods. But before going further, what does it mean by allergic reactions? So allergic reaction is the way your body responds to the allergen that you consume in your foods or your meals. Alright, my beloved lecturer and fellow friends, now I will explain the symptoms that may arise from allergenic contaminations. This can be divided into three categories, which is mild, moderate, and severe reactions. As for mild reaction, the symptoms affect at the specific spot of body parts. For example, rashes, watery and red eyes, hay fever, running nose, and itchiness. On the other hand, for the moderate reactions, the symptoms spread to the other parts of the body. This includes swelling, troubles breathing, hives, and itchiness too. Contrast from mild and moderate, for severe reactions, or as known as anaphylaxis, is where the body's response to the allergens is immediately right after the person consume allergic foods, and it is affect the whole body. Most cases of anaphylaxis may emerge with a serious itchiness of eyes and face. Within a minute, there will appear the worst sign, including difficult with the breathing and swallowing, hive, cramps, vomiting, and diarrhea. If untreated, anaphylaxis can cause death within a minute to hours because of the blood pressure is too low. So now, what are the examples of the major food allergens? So, these are the 8 of the common food allergens, which is milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, and soybean. It is very essential for the company to label at your product as they are contain allergen source food. Alright, as I mentioned before, these allergic contaminations happens because of the cross-contaminations. These cases, by chance, occurs through the manufacturing or when you in food preparations process. Even consuming a slight amount of food allergens is enough to attack a fatal reactions for someone who has food allergy. For your information, allergy can be cured. However, the symptom can be controlled by implementing meticulous arrangements of avoidance measures and medications. Thus, a hadith from Sunan Ibn Majah narrated that Abu Barzah al-Aslami said, O Messenger of Allah, tell me of an action which I may benefit. He said, remove harmful things from the parts of the Muslim. So, we as a Muslim, it is important to prevent allergenic contaminations of food for anyone who experiences an allergy to foods. Therefore, in order to do that, these are a few ways to prevent cross-contaminations from happening, such as make sure the food comes from official supplier who will take the allergenic contaminations as a serious matter. Other than that, during the preparations of meals, make sure and should be emphasized that the preparations, area, equipments, utensils, and fabric used separate to those used for the other's foods. Another way that can be implemented is disinfect and clean the kitchens thoroughly and the equipment as well. Once done in preparing food that consists of the major food allergens that has been stated earlier. In sum, these are the few actions that Muslims should highlight to keep them avoid illness that can harm themselves and others too.
All the information that being stated and being said by the all presenter just now show that it is very important for us to prevent food contamination and as a result to avoid potentially harmful toxic that can give implication for the health of consumer and ourselves. Foodborne illness outbreaks may develop when food safety is disregarded or when food is not handled with care. That's why consumption of contaminated food may cause dangers which come from physical, chemical, microbial, and allergenic contamination. Hence, control and prevention are essential. As been stated above, good hygiene and manufacturing procedures should be designed and implemented on a regular basis to reduce this kind of hazard and contamination to be happen again in future. Because just because something seems to be clean doesn't imply it is clean, because in instant it takes over 2.5 billion bacteria to make 250 ml of water to look cloudy, yet it only takes 15 or 20 pathogenic germs to get someone sick in certain cases. And that's the reason why we need to be careful and be alert with the things we consume in the future. I think that's all from us. Thank you for lend your ears and eyes to hear and listening to our presentation. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.